Jimmy puts on tights.
Arrow fights Ivan Drago.
And the Legends of Tomorrow enter the danger zone.
It's time to talk about all that and more as we recap and review all the CW DC TV shows. Welcome to DCTV Recap. I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
That's right, we're here to break down, review, and recap all of the CW DC TV shows because we love them, we know you love them, and man, we are just filled with comic book goodness. That's right. And you want to make sure you stick around till the end of this video because we have a contest for all you out there watching, and we're going to give something away, so stay till the very end. And also, there is a bar right here in front of us, locking us in here to talk about nerdy stuff, but also to let you skip ahead to the shows that you really want to hear about in case you don't care about certain ones. But if you don't care about certain ones, what's wrong with you? That's what I say, right?
Totally.
All right.
Inclusion.
Let's jump right into Supergirl.
Supergirl Season 2, Episode 5, Crossfire. Supergirl faces a ruthless new gang that's been given new alien technology by CADMUS.
Okay, so let's talk about the good stuff that we liked in this episode. First off, I really liked the opening bank robbery.
Yes.
I thought that the crooks with the guns, I thought they looked cool. I thought it was a cool little action scene. I also love that we learned that Mon-El is living with Jimmy.
That's funny because my first note is, why does Mon-El live with Jimmy? I think it's so, it's cute, but I think it's so strange that Kara's like, yo, here's this alien dude who sort of looks like a 10-year-old version of my cousin, let him live in your house. And he's like, yeah, Kara, I'll do that for you.
Do you think it's a little weird that why he's not living with Kara?
That's what I think is very weird.
And she has a huge apartment.
She does. I've been on that set. It's huge. But I will say that she doesn't have a bedroom. It's an open concept, so maybe that's an issue. But I think it's kind of an interesting choice when you look at the history of who Jimmy Olsen is as a character. He is a sidekick and assistant to all of the supers, and Mon-El is a Superman analog.
Definitely, and also a super member of the Justice League and Legion of Superheroes. What else did you like about this episode?
I liked the fact that we tried really hard to address Alex's romantic feelings. Like, I'm really into the subplot that maybe later in life she's discovering that she's either a lesbian or bisexual. I don't think it was always handled with the most grace, or there could be some less subtle writing that was engaged. But I think that Kyler Lee played it really, really well. I'm really interested in that plot from the previous episode, and I like that we have now confirmed that it's not just reading too much. She's actually really, really into her pseudo partner.
Interesting. I want to talk about a little bit Mon-El's bow tie and glasses costume.
Oh, really?
I loved it.
I didn't think you would. I think that's so interesting.
I loved that costume. It reminded me so much of the 1930s, like, goofy Superman, so I really dug it. I also got a lot of Smallville vibes in this episode, simply by the fact that Lena shows up in this one scene, Lena Luthor, and she's like, Kara, I think you're my only friend. And I was kind of like, oh, there's some shades here of the Lex Luthor-Clark Kent relationship from Smallville, and I really, really, really like that. Because I'm loving everything that Lena Luthor is doing
I think she's a highlight, especially, I think she is where we should have been in season 1 with the villain. I think she's very, very strong.
She's such a better replacement for Maxwell Lord. We'll probably say that every single week.
Yeah. And I'm assuming we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but toward the end of the episode, you get confirmation that she is going to be a foe, or in a position of being a foe.
Sort of. Not.
She's either bad guy or bad guy adjacent.
There you go.
And that's really, I think that's really, really exciting. I also thought that Kara had a lot to do in dealing with both of them, because Mon-El kind of gets up to some shady stuff with Miss Tessmacher, which is cute to have that character.
You can just say it. He bones Miss Tessmacher in the closet.
Yeah.
We can just flat out say it.
I really like that actress. I think she's really adorable. And it's nice to see her having more to do, but it's also like, but you're just going to go sleep with Mon-El in the closet.
Well, see, that was in my negatives, because I thought that was too far for this show. But I did like Mon-El's line after it, where he said, like, what's the problem? I've been watching this show with doctors in it, and they do it all the time.
Yeah, what I like about that as a choice, maybe not so much an execution, but is that it makes him very much, he's not Superman. Even though we know he's an analog, he's not behaving the way Clark Kent would have behaved.
Yes. I love all the stuff between Winn and Jimmy in this episode. I liked Winn calling Jimmy out, being like, why do you want to be a superhero all of a sudden? And I thought Jimmy's speech... Jimmy's been really missed for me this season. I
would agree.
I haven't liked a lot of what McCad Brooks has been doing. I don't know whether that's the acting or the writing. I blame it on the writing a little bit. But I thought he had the strongest scene probably of the entire series in this episode where he was like, I've been a sidekick my entire life.
Yep.
And I'm ready to be the main hero. I thought that was pretty powerful, pretty profound, actually.
And I enjoyed, for the first time, I believe that these two guys are actually bros.
Really?
They've been, for all of season 1, they're rivals. And so you kind of understand why they don't really like each other. But now that they've both been rejected by Kara and they're both on to new things in their professional life, they seem like they like each other and they respect each other. And I think that's a good, natural place for them to move to.
You know, a thing that also got proved to me in this episode that I really loved? We finally got proved that Lena is a Luthor, not from your scene, but from her messing with the machine underneath the table, because Luthors, at the end of the day, are always scientists.
Yes.
And Lex is a scientist first and foremost. I like businessman Lex, but I also like mad scientist Lex because that's where the character started. So I like that she was there, and I loved her and Winn, like, oh, capacitor. And stuff. So I kind of was like, oh, are they going to do a little bit of a romance there?
I would ship it. I would be there for that. I don't like Winn as a love interest for Kara, but I think because he's a scientist, she's a scientist, and then he's also, he's used to being around people who are evil because his father was evil. So I think that would be a really interesting continuation of that theme.
Another thing that I want to pick up is, I don't know if anybody out there else noticed this, but all the yokels, as I'm going to call them, because I hated them. They're going to be in my negatives. I hated the yokels. They were killed with telepathy at the end.
Yeah.
They were killed with telepathy. Now, if you know anything about CADMUS, you know that a certain super character comes from CADMUS. His name is Superboy.
Right over there.
He's right over there. He's in the very far corner. You can't even see him. This character right here comes from CADMUS. He was cloned at CADMUS. And he had a friend in his very first solo series called, and I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, Duplex, or Dubelex, or however you want to say his name. He was gray, he had horns, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, the little guy. Yeah,
He's telepathic.
What if those little guys show up?
And you remember the little guys from Young Justice that were all thanking for him?
Oh,
yeah, that was
would be
CADMUS as
so
well.
cool.
I'm putting it out right there. I hope this is Dubelex.
What if
or
Kara
Dublex.
gets one?
So I'm hoping, not enough budget. But
that would be so cool, though. It would be so cool if there was even if you just saw him in the alien bar.
Yes.
That would be so great.
Or even if you just cast an actor like him and we only see him as human, I'd be fine with that. But Dubelex, as I'm going to probably mispronounce the hell out of his name, I hope he's in the show. I hope that was confirmation that he's there. Let's talk about my last good thing, and then we can see if you have anything else. Last scene, we finally learned who the old lady is who's been controlling CADMUS.
Yeah.
It is the mother of Lena and Lex Luthor. Now, this is an interesting thing because Smallville introduced us to Lionel Luthor. I assume the mother is also going to have an L name. But the mother of the Luthors is not really shown in many media. This is a first. I like this.
I love it for Supergirl. I think it's a great extension.
What do you think about the reveal?
I didn't love her in this episode. I haven't loved her as we've seen her so far.
Well, because she's just been cackling mustache twirling
right.
daily. She doesn't even have a mustache. She's just twirling it.
So she's just twirling her hair. So I'm hoping that by now that we have this reveal and we'll hopefully get to learn more of her plan, that she's going to become a more fully rounded character.
Yes.
I think that it's a strong reveal for her character. It's a strong reveal for Lena. It's a strong reveal for Supergirl.
Great.
It was a really high note to end the show on because a lot of times Supergirl in particular doesn't end on a cliffhanger.
No.
And it's a lot better.
It kind of stops.
It does. And it's so much better when it does end on a cliffhanger. It gives you something to look forward to. I think it's a strong choice, and I think it's interesting that since Kat is not going to be around, we have another more mature lady who's going to be in a position of power with the show going forward.
All right. If you're all right, let's move into the bad.
Okay, let's do it.
There's a lot of bad.
There's so much bad.
It may seem like we talked a lot about the good stuff because, I think the good stuff we really like, but man.
But the good stuff was sprinkled in amongst a lot of bad.
So I don't like CADMUS as anonymous, basically, the hacker group. I don't like that.
I agree.
And I don't like that they're, breeding this hate for the aliens. And then I also don't like that we get a Second Amendment argument in the I want to call it the Daily Planet, but I know it's Catco.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, well, maybe we should have ray guns. Maybe everybody should have ray guns. I get what you're going for, Supergirl writers. I think you're hitting it too hard on the head. You're hitting it so hard on the head that we're being slapped with the subtlety so much that I repel against it.
It's not subtlety.
Well, it's not subtlety at all.
I'm also going to add that in this week's Arrow episode, which we'll be getting to, there is another character who is very pro-Second Amendment during a scene in that as well. So twice in 1 week during election week feels a little heavy-handed.
It feels way too heavy-handed.
Yeah, especially for these kinds of shows.
And you just feel like there could be a smarter way to handle that and still get the same message across. Like I have no problem with putting that message across, but it's like it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. Anything else you didn't like?
I didn't like basically everything where Jimmy was a vigilante.
Me neither.
Between the two of us, I'm more of the Jimmy apologist. I think when Mechad Brooks really gets something to do and is really on, I think he's really great, and I like this evolution of the character. Everyone don't need to be a superhero
Exactly.
in this universe. I think I said it here before. I'm going to say it again. Like, Lois Lane is one of the most important characters in the DC universe, and she's not usually a superhero, and she's just great at what she does, and why can't Jimmy just be great at what he does? But in these brand of shows, we tend to want to shove everyone in a costume, and it was stupid when he couldn't do it. It's going to be stupid when they put him in the costume. Him and Wynn had some cute conversations, and that was great, but it's just such a bad idea.
I know, because why couldn't they take Jimmy and let us see Jimmy become Perry White, the editor of the Daily Planet? We have, by the way, never seen that in any of the comic books.
Ever.
There's a storyline where he became a television anchor and he actually became pretty good.
Yes.
But he screwed up at it, so he came back to the Daily Planet. But we've never seen Jimmy Olsen take over the Daily Planet and be good at it besides like future alternate timeline storylines.
Right, and if you're trying to move him past the idea of being a sidekick, why not ascend him to this powerful position where he's the visible figure and Kara still has to just be Kara Danvers?
Well, it reminds me of the line in The Dark Knight where Bruce Wayne's talking about Harvey Dent, and he's like, there are just some battles that you can't fight in the shadows.
Yeah.
Some have to be fought. You have to have a face. Jimmy could have been that face.
I'm calling it though, like either by the end of this season or by halfway through season 3, Wynn and I was gonna call her sister Sarah, but that's not her name. Alex, they're both gonna be in costume. We're gonna have Team Supergirl.
Well, and then Martian Manhunter leads the team or something.
Yeah. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Speaking of Alex,
let's.
I liked it last week when we hinted at this idea of her possibly being a lesbian, possibly being bisexual. I thought this episode handled it so poorly.
It's a good idea, and it was handled very poorly.
I thought the scene of her and Maggie talking over a dead body and be like, oh, what are you doing tonight? Are you going to go play pool?
Bad
taste. Let's go play pool. Hey, you know what you should play?
But also, they were written like 16-year-old girls.
Yes.
I've been a 16-year-old girl. I can say that.
But they're professional women.
30-something-year-old women
Professionals.
who are the best at their jobs.
Yes.
Like, they're top-notch. Like, I get it. Like, when you're dating as an adult, you can still be very awkward, but, like, it just...
Yeah,
I can't even.
To me, it just came off, it made Alex come off as super desperate.
Yes.
Like, super desperate. And again, I have no problem with the storyline, and I think it's a good move for the character, but, like, I just was like, you should be kind of dealing with this alien dead body problem and not trying to pick up a chick.
I also want to add on to that. I actually really liked the beginning of the scene where she's gonna tell Kara until
I like that scene.
Until Mon-El shows up and ruins everything.
Yes.
But I believe that Kara knows Alex well enough and is a good enough sister that she would have come to the door and been like, "You need to go away." And she would have finished that conversation with Alex.
Yeah, I thought that scene handled it really well. I thought every scene with Maggie handled it terribly.
Poorly, very poorly.
Terribly.
Yeah.
The Miss Tex-Macher sex scene.
Another thing that, like, funny idea, maybe not handled the best.
I want to point it out here. I get that this is a superhero show, and I get that the secret identity are glasses. Is glasses, excuse me. I don't like a scene where Supergirl talks to Lena Luthor. It's the same problem
with Kat.
as Kat. She is a very smart, very intelligent woman. She would figure it out in seconds.
Yeah.
In seconds.
I think she knows.
Oh, 100%.
I definitely think she knows.
Because otherwise, it pushes the believability of the intelligence of this character to stupid.
I mean, I know we did it where Kat knew and then we retconned that away like an episode later, but I think, especially because she's going to potentially be a villainess, I think she has to know.
Well, the other problem about that is that I'm like, okay, we exist in a show where we have a character who can shapeshift their appearance.
Yeah.
Why did Kara do Operation Mrs. Doubtfire, which I thought was a clever joke, by the way,
Yeah, that was funny.
by herself? Do it with Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, actually, when we were watching it, and they were going to start that scene, Jason was like, oh, we're going to do the Martian Manhunter thing again. Okay, good.
Yeah, but nope, we didn't do that at all. And then lastly, of course, I just didn't like the yokels with the guns.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of the storylines, but I didn't like that they were like, ha, we're going to rob the jewelry exchange. Well, you should give us some more guns so we can rob this thing.
Yeah. It was just not...
Look at my beard and leather jacket. I'm cool.
It was not good.
Yeah, not good at all. All right, so what rating out of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, would you give this episode of Supergirl?
I am going to give this episode, Crossfire, I'm going to give it 2 out of 5. Because there were a couple really good things, and there was a really great move that's going to shuttle the story forward, but I think mostly it's a miss for me. It's one of the weaker episodes of Supergirl.
Interesting. I would also give it a 2 as well.
Yeah.
I had so many more problems with this episode than good. I'm just totally not in on Jimmy becoming Guardian.
I agree.
I just do not care, and I'm worried that this is going to sabotage the season for me because I think I've been really liking this season so far, and I'm really worried that Jimmy is the Guardian. I'm just going to be like, ugh.
Why couldn't we just have someone else as Guardian?
Yeah, I know. So do you have a prediction for what's going to come up in Supergirl in the future?
So I think that by the end of this season, I think that we know Jimmy's going to get a costume. We've seen pictures of it.
Yep.
His football armor with the shield thing. I think you are going to see Winn in costume by the end.
By the end of the season.
By the end of the season. But I think, because if you look at Winn kind of looks like a 15-year-old boy. And he's pale, and he's got dark hair. There's a super character who looks like a 15-year-old boy because he is, and who's pale, and who has dark hair, and who is from CADMUS. So I think there's a chance that Winn is going to become a Superboy or Superboy analog by the end of this season.
Oh, Lord, I hope not.
I'm calling it right now, because you know he's
wow.
going to become a hero at some point.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
What do you, it doesn't matter, it's my prediction.
Oh.
What do you think is going to happen coming up on Supergirl?
Such a bad taste in my mouth.
You drink it down with some Alina Luther's wine.
LexCorp wine. It's
L wine. No, it's L
wine.
Corp.
No, it's L wine. Yeah, or it's line. It's
Line.
My prediction's a little crazy.
Okay. Mine was pretty crazy.
I think since Mama Luther has been introduced as the head of CADMUS.
You think they call her Llama Luther?
Llama Luther, that's fine. She's the head of CADMUS. I think before season's end, one of two things is going to happen. We are either going to have a scene in prison where through shadow or through silhouette, we hear or talk to Lex Luthor.
I'm sorry, you're going to see him. We've seen Superman. You are going to see him for sure.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
Well, here's my thing. I don't know whether you're going to see Luthor this season or next season. You will see Lex Luthor in the show. I actually think the more likely aspect is that you are going to see Lionel Luthor in this season of Supergirl. And you know how you're going to see him? Because you're going to find out that he is the boss of Hank Henshaw.
Interesting.
And that he is like higher up in the ranks. So that way he is an equal pair against Mama Luther.
That's cool.
So there you go.
like
That's my prediction for Supergirl. Let's move on into The Flash. But as we all know, there wasn't an episode of The Flash this week. But guys, don't worry. Even though we do those recaps of The Flash, this week I broke down what I think is a pretty sweet theory for who is Dr. Alchemy. You can watch that video right here if you click on it, right around in here, somewhere with the Speed Force. I'm creating an annotation. You click on it and go to it. I actually think, I told you this theory. I think I nailed it. I think I figured out who Dr. Alchemy is. What do you think? Do you think I nailed it?
I do think you nailed it. We've made some predictions on that in the past, but I think yours is fully formed.
Yep, so go over there and watch that video, and that'll be The Flash. And of course, we do recaps every single week. But now, it's time to hood up. It's time to go to Arrow.
Arrow, Season 5, Episode 6, So It Begins. Felicity and Curtis learn that Prometheus's victims have a mysterious link to Oliver's past that could upend his new team.
Yes, so let's talk about the good as we hood up and talk about Arrow. Have you failed this recap yet, Ashley?
Probably. You look great today, Jason.
I'm the ultimate crossover.
Oh, you're like a season 2 crossover,
Get
season
it?
3 crossover.
Yeah, that's right.
You're the mid-season finale for Arrow season 2.
That's right. So let's talk about what I thought was the bomb in this episode, and that is the bomb-making scene with the Bratva. I thought that scene was really funny. I like the idea of like, you must learn to make bomb. The class is like sponge.
Yeah.
You must absorb like sponge. I thought that was really good. What other things did you like about this episode of Arrow? I enjoyed this episode.
I think I enjoyed it a little bit less than you.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the new Russian dude that we met, who is the actor from Justified.
Johnny from Justified.
Johnny Crowder from Justified. I thought he did a really great job, and I liked the scene where Oliver had to go in and pretend to be the playboy who wanted to buy the club.
I liked that as well, because I was like, oh, we're kind of going back to like the Bruce Wayne thing that he sort of did in season 1,
Yeah.
which I really liked. And that's the thing that I'm loving about this season of Arrow, is I'm loving all the season 1 callbacks. Adrian Chase, by the way, I thought in this episode, the DA is getting a little bit better. And
Yeah.
I know last week I predicted that he was Prometheus. I was completely wrong, because he's the vigilante, of course. I'm an idiot. But I loved when he was on the crime scene, and then Arrow showed up. Like, Green Arrow walked in, and it was like a sort of like a Batman Commissioner Gordon.
I thought that immediately, yeah, and he was like, can I have the room? And they sort of bite at each other, but they decide to work together. It was a great scene.
Let me ask you a question here, though. We saw before that scene Prometheus murder this mom with his star. By the way, I didn't like that they called him the star,
the star killer?
the throwing star killer?
Yeah, no.
That was dumb. But we see the scene where Prometheus kills this mother.
Yeah.
Which I thought actually was pretty severe for Arrow. What did you think?
It was pretty graphic for Arrow. I didn't think it was super, like, that weird. I thought it just sort of came out of nowhere.
Oh, okay.
Like that.
Well, they showed it in the neck, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't even, it's not the violence that got me, but it was like, oh, he specifically sought out a mother with children. I thought was sort of an extreme example. And I get that was the point, but I thought it was like, I don't know, I thought it was a bit distasteful.
Okay.
Personally.
Well, what else did you like from this episode?
I liked, this is skipping ahead a little bit, I liked the reintroduction of the Notebook.
The List.
The List.
Don't call it The Notebook. That's a Ryan Gosling movie. It's The List.
That's a terrible movie. But I think that The List is something that I thought was really cheesy in season 1, and I wasn't a great fan of that device. But I think without it, the show has lacked focus, and Oliver has lacked focus. And I think that bringing it back, yeah, pull that hood further down. I think bringing it back.
Ashley, my father gave me a list to save this city. You have failed this city. I miss that. That's what made me love this show, is when he would take this list and he'd kill people.
I'm glad that it's back.
Yes.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
You know what else is back? Really cool arrow tricks, because I loved it when Oliver shot the arrow down the barrel of a pistol, which is impossible, by the way.
Oh yeah, I was watching. I was like, not real. Don't care.
But you know what? Comic book Green Arrow, he could totally do that, and so that was awesome. I also really enjoyed the relationship between Oliver and Diggle teaming up and not telling the recruits, and then also later on the recruits were like, tell us this thing, Oliver, and he's like, yeah, I can't tell this thing, and then Diggle was just like, look, this is how it is. Listen to me, kids. And you were just like, yeah, that's it. Like, so Oliver is dad and Diggle is mom.
Diggle is always going to be my favorite part of the episode. I think David Ramsey's amazing. But the flip side of that scene is pretty much the entirety of what my bad was for this episode.
We're not there yet.
But we'll get there. I also liked, he has a scene alone with Felicity toward the beginning of this episode, and although I think Felicity's being petty and I think she's on the wrong side of the argument, I've always really liked their dynamic as like brother and sister in arms working for Oliver.
Which is why it was weird when they got together.
Yeah, but so I'm glad. I was glad for that scene.
All right, you brought up the list.
Yes.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about this list. I love that the people that Prometheus are killing are anagrams of people from the list. So Prometheus is killing these people because he's getting payback for Oliver's list. Again, when we got to season 2, when we got to season 3, we said time and time again that we felt like something was missing from the show because he had that purpose in season 1.
Yeah.
And he's never had that purpose again. Again, every time they mention a season 1, they tie back to season 1. I'm just in it because, again, like, season 1 and 2 of this show, I think, are amazing. I love those seasons. I still think they've never topped season 2.
I think season 2 is the best.
The best CW show.
But
yeah.
I think, like, the device of it's an anagram of someone you killed on the list to prove to you that you're a murderer is pretty convoluted.
It's comic book.
Even for comic book, it's pretty convoluted.
Well, the other thing that is pretty complicated is the fact that we learn that the throwing stars are melted down versions of all the arrows
That Oliver's ever
See, I like that.
I don't.
No, you know why? Because that's a Batman thing. There have been Batman villains that have done that before, so I really like that.
It just seems like too much work. It
Well,
seems like entirely too much work.
You know what? You know who's not doing too much work in this episode?
Who?
That's Dolph Lundgren.
Yes.
Who was fantastic in this episode. I thought he had a really awesome monologue about unity. And I'll tell you what I really like about these flashbacks that I think has been missing from the flashbacks for 2 years. I feel threat for Oliver's life in this season. Even though I know Oliver is going to come back to Star City in the pilot, we see him in the pilot come back to Star City. For some reason, when he's around the Bratva, when he's around these gangsters, when he's around the bombs, in the flashbacks, I feel a real sense of threat.
But you also feel like what he's doing matters. It doesn't feel like when he was in Hong Kong and Shanghai or wherever he was.
Hong Kong.
It was just like filler. You knew it didn't matter.
He sat
and
on
it
a
was
floor.
stupid.
He sat on a floor and played games with a kid.
Yeah.
And you were like, what does this teach you?
This feels like everything that you're seeing here, even when it's really heavy-handed, like the bomb making,
Yes.
you know it's going to be something that directly relates to where he is now as the Green Arrow.
Yes.
There's a trajectory to be followed there.
Yes. All right, so let's move on. Unless do you have anything more of the good?
We can move on.
All right, let's move into the bad of this episode. I'm going to start this off.
Okay.
I thought Felicity was extremely annoying in this episode. I thought her jokes were she made coffee jokes, she made Babylon 5 jokes, and then she just rambled a lot. And oh man, this was like max capacity of what I could stand for Felicity. And I'm starting to think that maybe Felicity shouldn't be on this show anymore.
I think that ever since they turned her into romantic interest, they immediately made her stupider because you can't have a smart romantic love story. And she's not the character that we all fell in love with in season 1.
No.
I think she's useless. Sorry.
And her boyfriend, her cop boyfriend, I hate as well. I think he's so milquetoast.
And they're terrible together.
Yes.
It wasn't very good.
What else did you not like from this episode?
Everything with the recruits. I think I've said this almost every episode now. Just get rid of all of them except Curtis because he's been around for a while. He has a pre-existing relationship. He offers something to the team. Ragman, Pretend Black Canary, and
She's Artemis.
Night Owl or whatever his name is.
Night Owl? You mean Wild Dog?
Yeah, some animal thing. I can't stand them. They're stupid. They fight with him about nonsense. They fight with him about nonsense that they know about.
No, here's what
fire them all.
Here's the problem.
Fire them all.
I don't have a problem with the recruits.
I have a huge problem with
I don't have a problem with recruits. What I have a problem with the recruits is, and especially my bad, is the fact that this is like the 3rd episode in a row where Oliver's like, I have to protect the recruits because I haven't trained them. So I'm not going to tell them about this villain because they're going to run off and fight him, which they've done in the past.
Yeah.
And then he has a meeting with the recruits, and the recruits are like, man, why aren't you going to tell us about this thing? Because you're going to run off and fight him. But I won't do that. You did it last episode. No.
It's just, I hate them so much. Bring back Roy, bring back Speedy, bring back Katrina Law.
It's called Need to Know.
Even when Roy Harper was at his most silly Roy Harper,
Yeah.
he was more capable than these 3 characters and less annoying.
That's true. I will agree that the recruits. See, like I said, I'm keen on that. The recruits keep having the same conversation with them, and then I'm like, no, Oliver doesn't have to tell you everything.
And then Felicity is on their side, which is part of my huge problem with her this season. Felicity, more than anyone, regardless of the romantic BS that she did with Oliver, she should understand Oliver, where he's coming from, and why he does things the way he does. She should be empathetic for him. She should be like Daddy Diggle, kind of smacking them into place. And she's like, no, Oliver, you should really tell them why you murder people. And it's like, no, what are you doing?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. All right, so let's get to the very end. I want to talk about this big thing, the big thing that I did not like. The red herring of Quentin Lance as Prometheus. That he has one of the throwing stars on it, and he also has the same injury that Artemis gave to Prometheus on his arm. I think this is such an obvious red herring. That he is not Prometheus, and I think I admire them for trying to throw us off the rails, but I think it's so far off the rails that it has no possibility of being real. I think it's immediately going to be discounted next week.
I agree. I think Paul Blackthorne is quite wasted in this season.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
I think he's tremendous, and I think he's often tremendous playing against less capable actors.
Yes.
He's doing a great job, but we've seen him do the relapse thing a lot.
Yes.
And whether or not that is how an actual person would react, this is fiction. I don't come to fiction expecting real people, but we're at the point with him where he is, like the recruits, in my opinion, so incapable that there's no reason why he should be on the show. He shouldn't be involved with Team Arrow. He shouldn't be deputy mayor because he's a mess and he's a liability to everyone around him. And Paul Blackthorne is too good for that, and the show is too good for that. So, like, come on, just give him something to do.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you on the alcoholism. I think it's too far. Because again, we've seen this already. We saw it with Sarah.
Every
now we're seeing it. We're seeing it with. We haven't seen it every season. That's false. We've only seen it in season 1, and we've only seen it in this season. Because in season 2 is about Laurel getting drunk and him working
you're
through
right.
her.
You're right.
In season 3, he didn't do anything. In season 4, he didn't do anything. So it's only been these two. It's been the bookends.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a problem with him as deputy mayor. The reason why is because I know that Oliver as mayor is only going to last one season.
Oh no, my problem with it is that if he's this careless, he should be fired.
Well, here's the problem with it. He won't be fired because if Arrow goes to season 6, he's mayor.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what they're setting up.
Yeah.
He will be mayor next season.
I also think his relationship with Thea is incredibly creepy.
Really?
They're like super best friends, and there's something about it to me that is very creep-tastic.
Interesting.
I don't think like they're gonna go there, but when I watch it, I'm like, I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that like she is sitting in your apartment with you right now.
But see, I don't read it that way. I read it as, and that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't seen it that way.
That's okay.
I see it as she's replacement daughter.
See, I feel like that's what it's supposed to be, but I don't feel like he's giving me that.
Oh, okay.
I feel like she's trying for that, and I don't know. I just,
that's an interesting perspective. Like I said,
we agree to disagree.
Sure, whatever, you know? All right, so let's talk about the rating of this episode. Let's 1 to 5, 5 being the best. What would you give this episode of Arrow?
I'm gonna give this episode of Arrow 3.
Ooh, okay. Higher than Supergirl.
I liked it more than Supergirl. I wanted to give it a 2,
and
but
you didn't like it that much.
But I didn't. But
Yeah.
I liked it more than Supergirl. So I guess I'm giving it for Diggle's arms as he crosses them and lectures people.
Well, you know what, Recruit? It's a good thing we trained together.
Hang on. You didn't tell me that you killed people, even though I knew that's what I was getting into this whole time.
You have failed this acting lesson.
Now tell me your rating.
3. Same as you. I give it a 3. Here's the thing about Arrow. I think this is the weakest episode of the season so far for Arrow. But here's the thing. There were so many cracking good things in this. I'm getting more intrigued by the Prometheus mystery.
You're liking the seeds that are being planted?
I am. The overall storyline of this episode wasn't the problem. It was kind of the flavoring. It was like the Felicity flavoring, the
interesting.
Recruits flavoring.
I think you're right.
It was the little subplotty stuff. Because I think the hunting down Prometheus. Oh, Prometheus is on the train. Fight him on a train. Where is he at now? The list.
Yeah.
That was exciting. I thought that stuff was exciting. But it was the little stuff like, oh, Quentin's Prometheus. You know, like Felicity's arguing with the boyfriend.
Oh, yeah. Here's a redneck with a gun who's going to say it's my right to defend myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's another big bad thing that I want to talk about. Why is there all these people with, let's not insult rednecks, because I come from a redneck
I'm sorry. I take that back.
Yeah.
He does have a southern accent.
But, no, why were there like 5 people with handguns just
at the music festival?
At this carnival, just like bang, bang, bang. What the hell?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe Star City's open carry, but it doesn't seem like that kind of place.
Seem madness to me. But I guess I kind of understand that Star City's been attacked so many times. I'm giving it a 3 as well.
Yeah.
Very quickly, let's talk about what prediction do you have for the future of Arrow?
So I definitely think that Quentin Lance is going to be a red herring, and it will be revealed in the next couple episodes. But I think there's a good chance that since somebody is actively trying to frame him, that we will see him go to jail or be restricted or punished in some way for being Prometheus, even though he's not.
Oh, you think we're going to repeat that same beat from last season?
I sure do.
Because he went to jail last season, too.
And I think that's going to be Thea's latter half of the season arc is proving him innocent.
Interesting. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think's coming up on Arrow?
Well, I'm going out there because there were some clues about Prometheus' identity.
Okay.
I'm not going to break down my full theory because I kind of think that might be a good side video. And you guys let me know down in the comments if you think that's a Who is Prometheus video. I have some ideas.
Okay.
But Prometheus is harder to nail down than Dr. Alchemy. So I'm just going to stipulate this. He's not Tommy. That's stupid. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of that. When you hood up, you do that. He's not Quentin Lance. He's not Tommy. He's not Felicity's boyfriend. Mark Guggenheim said several times that Prometheus is somebody who was affected by season 1.
Yeah.
So, my question is, could that be a character that is still alive that we haven't seen since season 1? What about the possibility of Walter?
I just want that to be true.
Oliver
so
Queen's
bad.
stepfather, who we haven't seen since episode 1 of season 2.
He's so good too. Like he's such a good character, such a good actor.
We don't know a lot about Walter. There's nothing to say that he couldn't have been training with the League of Assassins for the last 4 years.
It's true.
And there's nothing to say that he thinks that Oliver has screwed up the city. There's nothing to say that maybe Flashpoint has rewired Walter, that maybe Walter and Moira were never together.
Oh, that's sad.
But I think it's going to be somebody from season 1, is my prediction. And I think it's going to be a reward for the longtime fans.
Nice.
So there you go.
Nice.
All right, so now let's move into Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 5, Compromise. The Legends trace a timequake to the White House during Ronald Reagan's presidency and discover that Damien Darhk is a senior advisor.
All right, so let's talk about some of the good stuff in this 80s-tastic Legends of Tomorrow episode. Ashley, what'd you like in this episode?
I like that Matt Lesher was back as Eobard Thawne.
Reverse Flash.
I almost called him not.
He was wearing a very 80s-tastic suit, too.
Yeah. Oh, the men's suits I was a big fan of. Damien Darhk comes out in that all white with the blue shirt.
Did you recognize that suit?
No.
That's the same suit that Don Johnson wears in Miami Vice.
Well, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I really like those two characters. I really like those two actors, and I've been waiting for them to like get together and team up and
They're
be evil
awesome together.
They're so awesome.
I mean, they are chewing the scenery, but
No, I don't care.
But they're two actors that are so good that you're just like, I don't care. I don't care. It's so good.
And
There's so much frosting on this scene.
I kind of thought Neil McDonough was gonna be done after last season of Arrow.
I'm so glad he's not.
I'm very pleased with that. So every time they opened the episode, they closed the episode. Every time they showed up, I was like having a rockin' good time with them.
I really have a feeling that he was going to be done, and then I have a feeling that they liked him so much that they were like, would you consider coming back? And he was like, sure.
He's like, I'm Marvel and DC. I can do whatever I want.
That's right. I liked the scene with Ray and Heatwave in the gun.
Yeah. Where he's trying to teach him how to...
Yes, and he was like, you got to be more like Snart. And he's like, you got to react to it and stuff like that. And I liked it where Ray was like, call me haircut again and I'll ice you.
Yeah.
And then if you notice for the rest of the episode, Mick only calls him haircut once.
After he screws up.
Yeah. Like he calls him something else. I can't remember, like Geek or something like that. You could tell like he was starting to say haircut and then he goes, Geek. Or whatever the hell he calls him. I can't remember.
And I like that his response to that is, that's good.
I know you like Star Trek, Ashley.
I do love Star Trek.
Did you like the scene where Martin Stein walked in and he was like, we're at the height of Star Trek The Next Generation?
Yes, I did.
I did too.
I thought the pop culture references were maybe a little late on.
So did Mr. Riker.
Aww. He was so hot back in the day. I think they were a little heavy-handed for people who maybe, like myself, were not alive in the 80s. And it was like, look, this is kind of when we're set, just so you know. But I like Star Trek enough that I was like, yeah. And Martin Stein, it should have been Martin Stein or Ray Palmer to make that reference.
Yes.
I really liked that those references were made.
I really liked Obsidian.
Me too!
Well, here, let's talk about this. Lance Henriksen, veteran character actor. He has been in Aliens. He's been in Predator. He's been in. He was in a really great series created by Chris Carter called Millennium that never completed. It's an amazing. It's a spinoff of the X-Files.
He has the perfect voice for this character.
Well, I was worried about him being cast as Obsidian because actually when the Justice Society first showed up, I was like, oh, how was Lex Henderson going to be in this? But
he was born in 1850.
But I liked that he was the older version of Obsidian. I like the character of Obsidian a lot. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's the son of Alan Scott. And I also appreciated that they made him gay as well, which I loved.
I love that.
Well, especially I think that's a nice tip of the hat to the Earth 2 version of Alan Scott, who is gay. So I really liked that. I thought he did a fantastic job, and I really believed his relationship with Vixen.
Yes, Amaya is really turning into be one of my favorite characters of this season, and I think she does a tremendous job at playing more mature or older than the other characters.
She seems older than the way she plays the character, she kind of seems like she's the same age as Martin Stein.
She does.
Yeah.
She does. And they shouldn't, I mean, in real life, I guess they would be contemporaries, like if she was aging at the same rate or
she would
whatever.
be like 20 years older than him.
Yeah, or dead.
Or dead.
But I'm kind of bummed that they're really heavy-handed in setting up the relationship with Nate because he's the addition I don't like as much.
Yeah.
But I thought that all the reveals with her were really interesting. You learned a lot about her character, and I thought she handled them with a lot of just skill. And then in her final scene with Obsidian, I thought it was really lovely. And this is twice now that she's basically had to see someone die. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard scene to play, and I think she handles it really, really... I just am really a big fan of Vixen.
There's a couple of things I want to mention in this episode. I love that we got to see the old 80s logo of Channel 52. That
intro
was great.
Was everything.
So good. Let's also talk about... They mention the last mission of the JSA. So the JSA go off to fight the Cold War and they never come back.
Yeah.
That was very intriguing to me. And it was also, there was a slight mention about why didn't Obsidian go. And so that was like mission. I think I'm going to save that for my predictions.
Okay.
So we're going to wait on that. I liked it when Ray put on Snart's jacket and he was against it. I also like that young Marty Stein walks in and he mentions that he had won a Carlin Award. Which is, of course, an homage to DC editor Mike Carlin.
I also thought that was nice because we've seen that actor before. It was great to see him again.
1.
He does a really good Victor Garber impersonation, homage, however. And their scene together, I thought, was really, really nice, too. Because sometimes when you see older and younger versions of the same character, it's really weird, but they seemed like the same person. I thought it was handled very well.
I was also generally surprised when Damien Dark stabbed him. Because I was like, oh, nothing's going to happen to him because he'll be fine. And then Damien stabbed him, and I was like, whoa, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What else did you like in this episode?
This is like a very personal to me thing. I don't like 80s music very much, like when you think of traditional 80s music. So I was super gratified when they're on the stakeout and they turn the music on and it's I Just Died in Your Arms.
And Mick's like, ah!
And Mick like punches the stereo and he's like, I hate the 80s. And I was like, me too, because all the women's suits are hideous. But I just like anything Mick Rory does, I'm in on, 10 out of 10.
Let's talk about Mick as well. I loved when he walked into the room in the White House and he threatened everybody. He was like, get out of here. And nobody moved. And then Ray was like, we need you all to leave the building. There's a bomb. And then everybody ran.
Filed out, yeah.
I really liked that. Mick got a lot of great stuff, especially when he's eating the donut while they're defusing the bomb. That was really, he's like, if we die.
In his last 10 seconds of life, he's like, I would like some sugar, please.
I want to ask you
about
Sarah's confrontation with Damien Dark. Two really good actors. Mm-hmm. I liked her monologue where she's like, I know how you're going to die. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Ba-boom. And then Reverse Flash sweeps him away. I thought it was a powerful moment that maybe we're finally going to move past bloodlusty Sarah where she's like, I got to stab him. What did you think of it?
I'm of two minds about Sarah in this episode because I think that her speech earlier to Martin Stein about like, you never loved anyone and my sister died was really terrible. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's the writing or the acting or the directing, but I just thought it was really not as well handled as it could have been. And it was nice to see in that moment at the end that she does, it's just affirming to me, she kind of gets this moment at the end of every episode that she deserves to be the captain, she deserves to lead the legends. And it also, we know she's a great fighter, and it's great to see her fight, but it's interesting to see her now moving into the realm of the more psychological, which is not something that I think of for that character. You know they're going to wind up getting to blows eventually, and I can't wait for the two like white people with blonde hair to duke it out. It's going to be a good time.
White people with blonde hair fight. I like that. All right, let's move into the bad. Number one, where the hell did they film this White House? Because whatever hotel convention center they're walking around looks nothing like the White House.
I'm pretty sure it's a bed and breakfast.
Oh, man. No, it was like, the way it was set up, I was like, oh, that looks like it could be like the Marriott Convention Center in Vancouver.
Oh, I mean, no. The City Hall, the interiors for City Hall in Star City, where there's like the big glass window, that's the convention center in Vancouver.
Oh, but it looked nothing like the White House. I was like, no, there's too many white doors and exit signs, and I was like, and it's just like this white hallway.
Yeah.
I was like, not the White House at all. So.
I thought it was really silly, and I think it was supposed to be a badass moment, but to me it read as really cheesy, where the music is playing and they walk around the corner in the White House, and they're all like 80s-tastic.
No, they walked into the danger zone.
Oh yeah, there you go. No.
Another bad moment that I thought, we are another episode for this season where they get into a fight with the Secret Service, and everyone in the White House sees them, so much so that there's a news report. They are the worst freaking time travelers of all time. Every episode this season, they have broken the space-time continuum, and I'm getting tired of it.
Oh, I'm gonna die. That's so funny.
It bothers me. Stop breaking the time-space continuum every episode.
Look, I know we said at the beginning that we couldn't do it because of Perry's message, but we can do it to kill some folk.
Well, we can. No. They
if
didn't even do it for a purpose. They did it just to get in a fist fight.
If they had done this with the Secret Service, they've done it so many times by now, they would be in the manual.
Yes.
There would be specific training to deal with these freaks.
Well, it would be so conscious. Like, every year in every history book would be like, and then the legends showed up. Like, I mean, because they're not secret at all. Like, Firestorm just lights up and, like, blasts people. So, like, our history books in the 80s would be like, and then Firestorm attacked Reagan, and then Firestorm attacked Jimmy Carter, and then Firestorm attacked Russia.
Don't put that on Jimmy Carter. He's a nice old man.
But the legends would attack him for no damn reason, because they can.
I thought, yeah.
They need to be more secretive.
They're not. They burned down a house. They're not very secretive.
Oh, good lord. And also a bad, just because I hate to see this character go, Obsidian dying.
Sad.
Yeah.
But you know that character can't last into the modern age.
Yes, he can. He smoke.
Just based on his age.
He smokes.
So I thought it was kind of.
He's ageless.
I'm actually really sad that someone has to go tell his husband that he's not around anymore.
Smoke. Oh no, he got healed. Remember, I forgot.
Oh, there you go.
Why am I saying he died? He did get healed.
He did die. Oh yeah, and then he walked away.
He did die, and then he did come back.
He did die.
He did die, did not, did do.
So we can see. We can see him again.
Yep. All right, so let's give a rating to this episode of Legends of Tomorrow.
I am going to give this episode of Legends of Tomorrow the same rating I gave Arrow. I'm going to give it a 3.
Interesting. Why?
Because I thought some of it was really, really silly.
Yep.
And I'm not a fan of the fact that they were setting up Nate and Amaya, and I just don't like Nate.
Yeah.
I thought it was an okay storyline. It wasn't one of their more exciting storylines. I thought last week's episode was much better, but there were some really good parts.
Nice. And I will give this a 3 as well. We are same on the ratings across the board here.
That never happens.
I thought it was a great episode, but I didn't think it was as good as last week's.
Yeah.
Hence, there were some I can't quite put my finger on it, but it wasn't as strong as last week. All right, so real quick prediction about Legends of Tomorrow going into the future.
Legends of Tomorrow going into the future, I think now that we've met Obsidian in a really meaningful way, we've talked more about Our Man.
And by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, we forgot to talk about Damien Dark and Reverse Flash going into the future in a time bubble.
In a really plastic-looking time bubble.
It's the same time bubble from Flash Season 1.
I know, I just think it was the way it was lit. It looked really cheap here, where it looked really good in Flash. I know it's the same set
That's the
piece.
Legends, the Arrow with, this is...
I think there is a good chance that we are going to see the rest of the JSA members cropping up in future episodes. And I think and I hope that we get to see the original Our Man, because I think he's actually going to be like the new Our Man, but in the old Our Man costume.
Well, what do you mean by the original Hour? Because we have seen the original Hour Man, Rex Tyler.
I know, but isn't there the old Hour Man costume? That's not the blacks?
Yeah, there's like a different costume.
Yeah. That's like.
But what do you mean by saying the original Iron Man?
So
I'm
sorry. I think because Rex is the original, right? I think that we're gonna see someone take up the mantle.
You think
of
we're
Our
gonna see
Man.
his son, Rick?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
anyone. But
he'll be in the original.
He'll be in the original costume.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I
was like,
that.
we've seen the original Hour Man, and he dies.
Yeah, because apparently we're never gonna see Booster Gold, so why not more Hour Men's?
Yep.
What do you think is coming up on Legends?
I think that the season finale is going to be the Legends going back to the last mission of the JSA, and they're going to save them and rewrite the timeline. So in the 1950s, they're going to save the timeline. That's going to be Vixen. That's going to be the reason why Vixen leaves the team. And Nate will go back to the future, and his grandfather will be an old man and be there. That's what I think the season finale of Legends is.
I think that's a nice idea,
So this-
story-wise, but I don't look forward to seeing this.
Well,
season.
because I just think I think Legends season 1 was Vandal Savage. I think this season's going to be the JSA.
Yeah, I think
and I
you're
think
right.
they're going to save the JSA.
Yep.
So there you go.
Nice.
All right, guys, so last week we asked you to talk down in the comments and tell us who you thought was the winner of the week. I thought I'd read some of those comments and then tell you who won the Legion of Collectors Wonder Woman box that we're going to give away. First up, Sanjin Mazik says, I think Arrow has been the top show every week since they came back on. I stopped watching that show halfway through last season, and I tuned in for the sake of this season premiere, and it hooked me again. What do you
Nice.
agree? Do you agree with him? Do you agree with Sanjin?
I don't think it's been the strongest every week,
Mm-hmm.
but I think this has been a return to form for Arrow. I think this is the strongest it's been since season 2.
Agree. I think this has been as strong as season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Another comment, we have Johnny B45. Also, I can't believe we have seen live-action Martian Manhunter and Miss Martian fighting one another. It's a crazy time we live in, and it's awesome. Johnny, I agree. It's so flipping awesome that we got to see them fight last week.
Yes.
I never thought... I thought we were at least a decade away from seeing Miss Martian in live action.
Oh, yeah.
A decade.
And we saw her ascend to her full white Martian form.
I like how you put ascend.
However, well, she gets real tall.
Oh, wee.
Yeah. There was like a Supergirl
That's
story
the Supergirl
where
sound.
she was
Remember Arrow's
wee.
later. Supergirl.
I can't wait to see what Flash is going to be.
I have no idea. And then real quick, the winner of our Legion of Collectors prize pack from last week, Sarah Stowe. She said, Legends of Tomorrow was my winner this week. It was refreshing to see Jax have a beautiful character arc, and I love to see not only the character growth of Mick over the seasons, but also the growth of a relationship between Ray and Mick. And I thought that was very profound. It's exactly what we liked last week, and that's not why we picked it, but I just thought it was a very well-written comment. So Sarah, you win the Legion of Collectors DC box. Message me on YouTube, and I will send it your way, but you gotta make sure you message me on YouTube. If I don't have an address, I don't know where to send it. I'll just throw it into the time stream, and it'll go somewhere.
It'll go back to 1987.
Now, remember, we announced at the very beginning of this video that we were also going to give away something else, and actually,
Jason.
we're going to give away this book in my hands. Why don't you tell the viewers out there what this book is?
That is Road to Rebirth, Superman, The Final Days of Superman. This is where we're going to say goodbye to the New 52 Superman.
This is the story that says goodbye to the New 52 Superman.
Ooh, hardback.
It's a hardback, Peter J. Tomasi. It is a great story. And how you can win this is you have to comment below with the hashtag DCTV recap, and tell us who was your favorite character from this week's shows. Who is your favorite character? Ashley, who's your favorite character?
I'm going to have to say that my favorite character from this week's series of shows was Amaya Vixen from Legends of Tomorrow. How about you?
I think my favorite character from this week, I think easily has to be, I think I have to give it to Arrow.
Oh.
Arrow himself, I think, was very good. I liked him making bombs, and I liked him talking about the list again.
I thought you were going to say Obsidian.
I like it, Lance Henriksen, but I gotta give it to Oliver Queen a little bit more. All right, so hashtag DCTV recap. Tell us who you thought was the best character of this week, and you're gonna win that hardcover. Yeah. Guys, don't forget to click subscribe. We're gonna do this every single Friday. We're gonna talk about all the DCTV shows, and head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Jawiin, if you want to support the show and get all kinds of exclusive stuff, like our If Anthology, our first comic book storyline, and we're going to get a personalized signed copy. You go over there, you get all the details. I'm Jason Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we'll see you next week as we hood up in the future.